coming. Try again. Thanks everyone for coming. So we'll send you about 3 pieces of information when this is over. We'll have a press release, we've got a white paper, and we'll send you the slides. Feel free to jump in during the presentation if you've got questions. And I'll hand over to Jen McSpadden, our Head of Retirement at Brighter Super, who'll start proceedings.
Thank you, Sid, and thanks everyone for coming to this presentation today on insights into Australians' retirement needs. This is a Brighter Super and Investment Trends joint initiative to understand better about retirement needs, both pre and post-retirement. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we are meeting today. For those here in Sydney, we stand on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people joining us today. In the spirit of reconciliation for those online, we also encourage you to explore and seek to understand who the traditional owners are in the place you are joining us from today. So the findings of the Brighter Super and Investment Trends 2024 Retirement Income Report are clear. Inflation and cost of living pressures are impacting both pre-retirees and retirees. For those still working, they're feeling less prepared for retirement in 2024 than at any other time in the past decade, with 62% of people expecting a funding gap between what they have saved and what they will need to retire in comfort. Retirees' concerns are also steadily growing. However, confidence that they will have enough money to see them through retirement remains high. Pre-retirees rank inflation as their main concern, while health is a priority for retirees. Perhaps unsurprisingly, those who own their home remain more confident than those who are renting. Many Australians feel uncertain about their next steps, what action they should take, who they should turn to for guidance and advice, and what options they have available to them. However, this changes when people seek information and guidance, with super funds having a unique and valued role to play in increasing confidence and preparedness. My name is Jennifer McSpadden and I'm the Head of Retirement at Brighter Super, and co-presenting with me today is Irene Giamista, who is Head of Research at Investment Trends. Today's presentation is the result of a partnership between Brighter Super and Investment Trends. The research presents the longest running, biggest scale and deepest dive on Australia's pre-retiree and retirees' needs. Research findings are based on a qualitative online survey conducted by Investment Trends of 5,315 Australian adults, conducted in July and August of 2024. Of these, about 1,700 of them are retirees. We hope today's overview sparks meaningful conversation and contributes to new ways for us to collectively engage, educate and enhance Australians' retirement outcomes. For those joining online or here in person, as Sid had earlier, the Investment Trends offices here in Sydney will have time for questions at the end. We will also be providing immediately after this the white paper and the media release to give you more insight and information. Before I hand over to Irene, I'm just going to run through some quick facts about Brighter Super. We are a 100% member-owned Queensland-based industry fund. We have over $33 billion in funds under management, over 285,000 members, and we are the 4th largest financial business in Queensland. We've been around for nearly 60 years. This research is really critical in helping us understand our members and forms a key part of our retirement income strategy, as required under the Retirement Income Covenant. We're thrilled to have you here today and the opportunity to share these insights with you. And now I'll hand over to Irene. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and thank you all for coming today. I want to thank Brighter Super for their partnership in running this study this year. So I'm just going to start with the very first finding that Jen spoke about, which is retirement confidence dropping to a 10-year low. So what we're seeing in the data is the first slide on screen here, as you can see, we've been asking this very simple but also important question for a long period of time. We're asking non-retirees here how well prepared they feel for retirement. And the answers this year really need to give us cause to pause. So we have 29% of non-retirees age over 40 that are saying that they feel very well prepared and somewhat prepared. So while that should give us, some degree of comfort, it is concerning to see that that proportion has declined year on year. So 29% down from 41% last year. The year before that was 37%, and then 60% the year before that yet. So since we've been asking that question in that particular way, we can see that we've actually reached a record low. The other thing that we notice in the dark blue on screen, we have 5% saying that they feel very well prepared. So that sort of top level of confidence has actually dropped to a 10-year record low, as you can see there on screen. We could even add to that, the other side, which is in the green, people feeling very unprepared. Over half say they feel very unprepared, somewhat unprepared, or they don't know, which means they're not prepared at all. So that certainly should give us cause for concern. If we then move to the next slide here, kind of looking at what are some of the concerns that Australians have. On the left-hand side, we have pre-retirees. And we can see that the number one concern is inflation, rising prices. So right in the middle of your screen there. So this is actually a concern that has been increasing year on year. We say remain there in the tagline as reference to trend. So the 53% is actually up from 47% last year and from a lower number yet again. So the cost of living pressure that we've all been experiencing is really being felt quite acutely there amongst pre-retirees. On the right-hand side, we have the results amongst retirees. And what that's showing is that whilst cost of living and inflation and rising prices are, important concerns, 55% of retirees say that they're concerned about inflation and rising prices. The number one amongst that population, though, is physical illness. And I think that's really important in the context of the 2023 intergenerational report, highlighting that our population of 80 plus is going to triple in the next 40 years. The population of 65 plus is going to double in that same reporting period. So this is certainly a concern that we need to really look at right now, because it's only going to, increase. All right. Let me give you a view of retirees, quite the opposite there, actually. So what we are seeing, we asked two questions to retirees. The first one is, how well off are they feeling financially? So 53% say, they feel that they're living comfortably. You would say that's a slight decline from last year, which is absolutely the case. And I think it's reflective of the fact that they're also feeling the cost of living pressure that, we've all been experiencing. But perhaps the good news is amongst retirees, their assessment and the level of confidence that, they actually will have enough to see them through is actually increasing. So what we're witnessing here is quite a divergence, would you not agree, between the lived experience that retirees have, which is, they're actually feeling more confident that their retirement lifestyle can be sustained. And on the other side, the outlook of pre-retirees, which is actually declining. So pre-retirees are increasingly concerned about what lies ahead. And I think if we go back to some of the, the discussion papers that have been released recently, I am sort of thinking of the Treasury discussion paper released in December, which actually sized the number of Australians due to retire in the next 10 years at 2.5 million. That's 10% of the adult population. It is certainly, an important problem that we kind of need to take heed of. I would say the good news that we see from the broader research, and which you don't see on screen though, is that 57% of those pre-retirees are actually feeling very confident that their super fund can help them retire well. So that's really the silver lining there. All right, let me cover now the second finding, which is linked to the first point. So retirement preparedness levels are dropping. And in fact, when we quantify the level of income that pre-retirees expect to receive compared to what they believe they will need, that gap has actually widened. So kind of 2 slides to cover that point. Here on screen is what we refer to as our retirement funding gap. So we've been measuring this for quite a period of time, and we specifically ask pre-retirees, what do you think you will need to live the retirement lifestyle that you want to live? And that number on an average basis is 4,200, the blue line on screen. Per month.
Yes.
Per month. Yeah, good question. Indeed. And actually it's not the average, it's the median. Apologies. So you can see it there on the chart title. So how much do you think though that you will actually receive based on your current situation? And the assessment is 2,900. And so it's that gap of about 1,600 or so that is the retirement funding gap, and on a proportion basis is 31%. Now the figure over the past 5 years really shows that it's remained quite steady, that gap in percentage. We had a bit of perhaps an outlier during COVID. So in 2021, our whole sort of economy and financial system was awash with cash, and we did see that people were actually temporarily feeling quite confident, but things have kind of reverted to the norm since. The other stat that I'd like to point out is the 62% at the bottom of the chart there. 62% is the proportion of pre-retirees that are actually experiencing that gap. So it is quite a widespread problem indeed. And so what are some of the things that they're thinking of doing in preparation or perhaps to mitigate those concerns? Are here on screen. A significant proportion are thinking of retiring later than planned, contributing more into super, which is a really good action to take now to get themselves to that better financial position. But perhaps one of the things that we are slightly concerned about is seeking advice from a financial advisor. The proportion of people thinking of doing that as a way to actually mitigate that shortfall has declined in the past reporting period. So we think there's certainly an opportunity to really encourage people to see that financial advice can be such an important enabler for them to retire well. And that's certainly work that super funds have underway as well. All right. So key finding number 3, we're sort of going back to those concerns and really exploring a bit more, inflation and health. And health in particular, we just did want to provide you some additional information around that based on the stats from the intergenerational report that I quoted earlier. So here on screen, we were just kind of showing a high-level picture of the average number of concerns that pre-retirees in the dark blue and retirees have. And so what you can see there is that that average number, is actually at the highest level since the data point that's shown there in 2018. Amongst pre-retirees, it's actually higher than amongst retirees, I should say. It is higher than amongst pre-retirees. The detail is actually the slide that I already showed earlier, so I just want to reiterate. Inflation on the left-hand side is what pre-retirees are concerned about, but health is really trumping all other concerns on the right-hand side. But the one where I might want to just spend a bit more time here is the hindsight reflection. So here we're talking to retirees. Recall a couple of slides ago, we said that 53% of retirees said they were living comfortably. So that group of 53% who are feeling really comfortable, we say, well, in hindsight, what are some of the things you think you did well that actually help you be in that comfortable position right now? And what they're saying mostly, many say, I reduced my spending a little bit, I paid off my mortgage before retirement and all those good things. But the thing that most often drove a really good and comfortable retirement lifestyle is I took care of my health. I maintained a healthy lifestyle that I could reduce medical expenses. So we think it's a really important point to emphasize in the context of, helping Australians retire well. All right. Last finding here, home ownership brings stability. So actually, penultimate finding. Key finding number 4, we have 5 to go through. All right, let's talk about home ownership. Now, you would recall sort of earlier on, we spoke about 29% of pre-retirees saying that they're feeling, somewhat prepared or very well prepared. That's again on the right-hand side of this slide for you. But what we've done on the left-hand side is splitting that by their home ownership status. And so you can see that so these are pre-retirees, right? Not retirees. So this is in anticipation to retiring. So pre-retirees that currently own their own home outright are multiple times more confident and more prepared than those who don't. Yeah, we could look at this in any number of ways. We could look at the 13% being, several multiple, almost infinity. If you look at the very inexistent proportion amongst those who they currently rent, we could look at 46% of those who own their own outright saying that they feel very well prepared or somewhat prepared for retirement compared to the control group, which is at 29%. So anyway you sort of slice this, it is very clear in our data that home ownership status is the most reliable indicator of feeling well prepared for retirement. Some other stats though, so with that in mind, knowing that home ownership has such an impact, we think it is quite important for us all to realize that if we look at retirees right now, actually, and we slice that by the time since they've retired, we actually find that the most recent cohort to have retired, I'm drawing your attention to the left-hand slide, those retirees who have retired, in the past 5 years, they're vastly more likely than, older generations, let's say, to actually still have a mortgage that they're still paying or to rent. So very often, there are discussions around, the next generation, Gen Z or millennials, having forgotten the big Australian dream and, discussions of that nature. But I think what needs to be realized is that right now, it is already happening that the most recent cohort of retirees has, a higher proportion of people who are still paying off their mortgage. And I think that kind of maybe a bit can be emphasized here on this screen here, where we're looking at then retirees who own their own home outright or who are still paying off a mortgage or who are renting. So to this population, we say, again, with the benefit of hindsight, what do you wish you would have done differently? So many are sort of placed where they are. But for those who said they would have done things differently, contributing more to super is generally, one of the regrets that retirees express in a sort of general sense. But when we look at those who are currently renting, they have many more regrets of all sorts of forms. So I'm not actually going to isolate a single one. You can see those green bars really over-index quite significantly there. All right. On to the last finding. Information and guidance can make a significant difference. All right, so to get us there, here is a simple slide. We're going back to that anchor point we've had kind of since the beginning of this presentation, actually. Remember the 29% of people who feel prepared? Now, that 29% works out at 19% among those who have done kind of nothing around seeking information in the past year. For those who have sought information and actually acted on that information in any number of ways, those ways that you can see there, all of those people are actually feeling better prepared. So that's probably the key takeaway here. So there's a significant uplift in the level of preparedness that is obtained by actually just seeking and acting on information. Where are members getting their information from? So pleasingly, the Superfund is their number one go-to information source. So that's really good to see there. We also do note, though, that friends and family and that sort of word of mouth channel is increasingly playing a role in those conversations. So that's kind of just something to note. On the right-hand side, when they've sought information, the most common action that they tend to take for 26% is making voluntary super contribution. So that's a really good outcome, but certainly there's more yet to do, right? So we would want more than 26% to be making voluntary contribution, and that's certainly an opportunity that lies ahead. I just wanted to perhaps touch on the fact that, preparedness is so very important. Right now, when we ask pre-retirees what they intend to do for the first 6 months of their retirement, they have legitimate, I would say, intentions after working, 30 or 40 years to, relax and take it easy for a little while and travel and do all these good things. And so it is important that they feel prepared to enable them to do this. They're not going to be able to do all these things that they have in mind if they're still very much concerned. So that's what super funds are certainly working on. I just wanted to close this by giving you a bit of an update on product, just because there's a key point here as well that we'd like to highlight. So when we look at the product side, some of the data that the research highlights is that pre-retirees are still need to be educated, let's say, about the retirement income product options that the super fund provide. So you can see there on screen 61% of pre-retirees are saying that they're actually not sure what options the super fund has. But what is pleasing to see is that, that 61% used to be 75% 2 years ago. So things are going in the right direction, but there's still more work ahead. When it comes to product features specifically, we have heard a lot about lifetime income. That is certainly something that Australian members want. So you can see there that amongst the top features, income that lasts for life for however long I live is certainly a desire that retirees have around a retirement income product. But what is much less talked about is cost. So having competitive fees and charges, whether we're looking at pre-retirees, as you can see on screen, or retirees, is actually also quite critical in feature set, if you will, that is desirable in a retirement income product. All right, so that brings me to the end of the sort of key highlights of the research that we wanted to share with you all today. I just want to quickly touch on the key points that we covered. So retirement confidence dropping to a 10-year low. It was that 5% saying that they're very well prepared. That's the lowest we've ever seen it. The retirement income shortfall widens, and that was the 31% between what members expect to receive and what they actually think they will need. We also have inflation and health emerging at the top concern. Perhaps we did emphasize health for the retiree side. Home ownership bringing stability is pretty straightforward and quite a strong indicator of retiring well. And finally, information and guidance. We can't have enough of this because it makes a really meaningful difference. I'll just pass back to Jen at this point.
Thanks, Irene. That was great. So interesting hearing those reports, findings. So one of the things that I'd just like to briefly touch on is there was some other information that was of particular interest, I think, to super funds. And before we start, I just need to put our general disclaimer on the slide up there, as always. So if I can go to that next slide, one of the things that's so important is, why retirees don't use retirement products. And only 56% of retirees felt satisfied with the income options provided by super funds, which is really starting to show that there is some opportunities for funds to zero in on this part of their audience or their membership. You can see on the slide there are several reasons that revolve around that, and it starts with complexity of the product, insufficient information or guidance, concerns about the product's performance, uncertainty about the product's benefits, concerns about the costs of the product, preference for products outside of super, preference for other investment options, and desire for more flexibility in retirement planning. To allay those concerns, the report shows that there is a unique role for super funds to develop an easy to understand and use retirement product that delivers better retirement outcomes for members in an easier way as possible. It also reinforces the direct link between receiving financial advice and securing a better retirement outcome, as Irene demonstrated, when people start to take action, and that action is guided by solid financial advice that can really make a big difference. There is, however, quite a number of people who have unmet advice needs. So I'd just like to take a little bit of time very quickly to address what Brighter Super is doing about this. You can't have one of these reports and then not do anything about it. So the number one concern being that products are too complex. Just recently, Brighter Super introduced our Retire Easy pension, and this proposition really is very easy. All people have to do is tick a box on our pension application form, and they are automatically enrolled to get the minimum amount of pension paid to them every month. And we also invest their money in a way so that they always have 2 years of cash put aside in a cash bucket to pay for those immediate needs and bills that might come up over those 2 years, while the rest of their money is invested in balanced and growth, meaning that they've got growth happening. It's actually quite a good psychological thing to have as well. So if markets are going up and down, people know that they've got the money to take care of the bills and can leave the rest to grow. Launched on the 31st of May, Retire Easy is the first of our new strategies designed to better support members in retirement. And you can see from the findings that members are particularly interested in features that go beyond the basics, including protecting against market falls. And that is something that we are working on and plan to launch something that will address that in 2025. The next concern that members have said they are worried about is insufficient information and guidance. And recently, as we said, the report has covered that super funds have a unique role in securing Australians' financial futures. For over half of pre-retirees, super funds are the go-to source for retirement information. And yet there remains a significant knowledge gap for members. To address this, Brighter Super has been working hard on educating our members with relevant information and guidance at a time and place that suits them. And this year we appointed David Koch as our retirement advocate, one of Australia's most respected personal finance journalists and broadcasters. And interestingly, since Koch came on board, attendance at our seminars has increased by 26% with a 57% intention to seek advice. So we feel confident that is working in the right direction. The other things that we have been doing is that Brighter Super does pride itself on offering a range of face-to-face and online member events, seminars, webinars, tools and health checks with more than 40 specialist team members engaging members. And we note that when people do attend a webinar or a seminar, it increases their confidence significantly. So that's encouraging as well. The third most important concern for members is product performance, and the report shows that 2/3 of retirees are not sure if their super funds offer pension products, which is a shame given the tax advantages, most notably that investment earnings and pension payments are tax-free, but of course also because they can withdraw all part of their money when they need it, which is answering a lot of the things that they said they were looking for in a retirement product. At Brighter Super, the balanced and growth options play a significant role. When I mentioned earlier that we've got money set aside to help it grow in the future for them, it is 50% invested in balanced and 50% invested in growth. And you can see there that that performance has been going strongly. And we're pleased to say that based on analysis of super ratings data, Brighter Super's balanced and growth options perform the strongest when compared with other Queensland-based industry funds in the rolling 1-year period to the 30th of September 2024. Finally, the concern that members have is uncertainty about pension product benefits. And a small but appealing pension product benefit that Brighter Super offers eligible members is what we call a retirement reward. And that is offered when they open a pension account with us. It comes about because we set aside money to pay the ATO when growth assets like shares are sold, and that attracts capital gains tax. We put that tax aside, but when someone moves from the untaxed environment of super to the taxed environment of pension, they no longer have to pay that tax. So instead of keeping that, we give that to members. And we're pleased to say that this year we increased the amount that we're paying. It's based on a retirement reward percentage rate, which is set each year. We increased that and we were able to offer members a reward up from $9,500 to $15,200. And I'm pleased to say that we paid over $2 million in retirement reward to members this last financial year. Finally, we're quite pleased to say that these efforts are being noted and improving in terms of improving Brighter Super's products, performance and education. It's been recognised by Super Review, Member Education of the Year, Outstanding Education, and also we were recognised as a winner of CanStar's 2024 Outstanding Value Award for account-based pensions. So that concludes what we were walking through today. I'd now like to hand over to any questions that in the room or online might have.
You said that it default, so they tick a box and it goes to the minimum drawdown, is that right?
That's right, yes.
Is there an option to withdraw more than that?
Yes, they can. So basically the Retire Easy pension is set up so that if someone isn't quite certain about what they should be doing, they can literally have a lot of the pre-selected payment amounts, payment frequency, how it's invested done for them. But there is our regular account-based pension. So someone can go in and decide that they want to take out more than the minimum, or they want to change how they're investing. We also auto rebalance so that that structure of the investing remains the same. We do that every year, but someone else would decide if they don't want that they can opt out and choose to auto rebalance or not. So we have quite a lot of flexibility for people. For those who aren't quite sure, they can tick a box, and for those who want to make some more decisions, they can do that too.
Because I think one of the problems in the system, is it not, is using these figures, which have very little basis as a proxy for how much people should withdraw.
You mean the minimum amount payment? I suppose what we've also seen in the report is that people aren't even quite sure what they're being paid down, or the amount that they're being paid. So it is a start for somebody. And again, we would always encourage people to take financial advice to understand, is the minimum right, or do they need more?
I think, according to the slides, like the figure of seeking financial advice has dropped this year. Why do you think that's the case when all the organisations are trying to push that route?
That's really interesting. Just to perhaps clarify that data point, the proportion of pre-retiree members who are anticipating a shortfall and think that financial advice is the way for them to actually bridge that shortfall, that proportion has declined. So again, we think that it's a shame and a missed opportunity. Certainly something that we're seeing in the broader sort of financial advice sense is that appetite for financial advice or guidance quite broadly is really, really high. We've never actually seen it as at a level as high as we measure it now. So it's about 15.8 million Australian adults. So you can read it, nearly every adult wants some form of guidance. But the number seeking advice has actually dropped in the past reporting period. So another study that we run, the financial advice report, cites that at 1.5 million Australian adults, and that's a drop from 1.8 million last year. So what you're seeing here is a divergence again between the demand, which is increasing, and actually the actual uptake of advice. And so we think that that gap, which is widening, can be bridged by, some of the changes that we're seeing coming through. We pin great hopes on things like QAR, for example, and the recommendations that are in the process of being legislated and are going through that process. The reality is that, traditional financial advice, if you will, has perhaps been, reoriented or shifted in the past couple of years due to all of the regulatory and compliance burden that financial advisors themselves have had to face. But we think that we are actually at the cusp of quite an important change, and hopefully that gap can start closing. Okay.
So I guess one thing is, what representations is Brighter Super making to the federal government on probably what the two key policy problems are there, which is housing affordability and access to affordable financial advice?
So I think that's something that we'll have to take on notice for you. I'm the retirement representative in that sense, but they're good questions. They really are.
Sorry, Joanna, what was the second one? Housing affordability?
Well, the access to affordable financial advice.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Any questions online? Please jump in.
And then I think we've got Beck online, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Speak now, Beck, or forever hold your peace.
Great report, guys. Don't really have any huge questions.
Okay, no worries. Any other questions?
That'll do me.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Something appreciated.
All right.
Thanks, Beck.
Well, thank you all. As Jennifer mentioned this report will be distributed after this session, and often we find that you have more questions that come through when you review the material.
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out.
Yeah,
Okay.
that should be in your inbox now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see it.
Thank you all.
See it, excellent.
You got it already?
Cool.
Yeah, lots of detail on there. Brilliant.
That's excellent. Have you got yours?
Oh,
Have you got, just check your inbox.
Oh, I don't
do
have
you have
mine.
the money gap on an annual basis as opposed to a monthly basis?
Ooh. I guess we could work that out. Timing it by 12.
I mean, I suppose you know, is that a legitimate way to do it?
To work that out, yeah, because I was actually just looking at the income level in the report, like how much income do you have now? Because I was looking at 4,200. That's how much they believe they will need. Which one could argue, if you've paid off your home and things of that nature, maybe that's actually a high amount. So that expectation may be set at an unrealistic level. But looking at the average income per annum per household, they're actually at around 100K. And so if you look at what they expect versus what they're earning now, it's income replacement rate of about 70%. So that's actually where you would expect the income replacement rate to land.
Is that in the report you say?
In the bigger report, not in the slides that I've shown you here, but we can
you
provide
send me
that.
that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
I guess if you ask for yearly because people are married to this bloody ASPA thing, so
yeah, how much?
Annually, don't know.
Yeah. No, so we can work that out on an annual basis.
Thank you.
Okay, of course.